Alright, hey guys, remember CCG back with new videos. So with this video, I'm going to be bringing a FLOOWANDEREEZE deck profile. So this is for the Extra Zero Festival event. And for this event, you're not allowed to have an extra deck. So of course, FLOOWANDEREEZE seemed perfect for this. And this is the deck I'm going to be running for this event. And I want to show you guys the build I'm going to be using. So here I have 3 copies of FLOOWANDEREEZE Robina. This is pretty standard. You just want to have the 3 copies of Robina because this is your 1-card combo. So definitely having 3 of these is a must. And with that, having 3 copies of Eglin is also important. So this is your way of searching out your big flunders. And of course, this is going to be your main target when you're searching out Robina. So of course, you're going to need to have 3 copies of this as well. Then I opted for 2 copies of a Stri. And the reason for this is because this is a great way of banishing a card. Not only can you use this to banish a card in your grave, in case you manage to get like one spell or trap in there, you can banish it in order to make your Dimension Shifter alive again. But it's also a way, just another flunder to have out in case you just need a normal summon one in order to get the effects going. And then Toucan is pretty great. Just having 1 copy is good enough though. The reason for having 1 copy is you don't really need the effect too much, but you do want to have it just in case you want to get like your M pen back, since that's going to be your main way of doing so. So that's why I think it's important to have at least 1 copy of that. 3 Ash Blossom because it's a great generic hand trap, and of course you want to run 3 of those. 1 of Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. Now this card isn't as good as it usually is, since everybody is running Flunder. Pretty much everybody's. I've seen a lot of Flunder when I've been testing this deck, but there are some other decks out there. There are people running Outlich. There are some people running Draco King. So this is great to still include in here, as it's a great normal summon. 3 Dimension Shifter. This card is extremely overpowered in this deck, and drawing it in your opening hand puts you in a really good position. So of course having 3 copies of that is a must. Apex Avian, it's your Omni Negate to normal summon out. And Rise of the Mega Monarch is great because you're just able to remove a bunch of cards and remove a card in the grave as well. So this card just gives you too much value. And here we have the 1 M pen. I've been conflicted of whether I should run 1 or 2. I decided 1 copy is fine just because I am able to get M pen back using the Toucan. And yeah, decided just having 1 copy of this is fine. And this card is of course important to have just because it is your way of searching out your spells and traps, and it is your way of getting past pretty strong monsters. So yeah, having 1 copy of that is great. Terraforming, your field spell is overpowered in this deck, so you're gonna want to have more ways to go into it. 3 Pot of Duality. This card is important in this deck since you're not gonna be able to use Pot of Prosperity, so of course having 3 copies is a must. Lightning Storm just as another way of removal. Yeah, just great removal to have here. FLOOWANDEREEZE in the Magnificent Map. This card is great just because it gets you going, lets you normal summon during your opponent's turn, which is very powerful if they normal summon. So just lets you wait to summon Ryza during your opponent's turn. And this card, of course, basically gives you another normal summon during your turn. And it's another way of searching out a Flunder monster. So a really strong card for this deck, and you want to have 3 copies. And then here we have one of the continuous spells, so FLOOWANDEREEZE and the Unexplored Winds is great. You just want to have 1 copy of it, just because you can search it out, and it's a great way to just remove one of your opponent's monsters in order to, or remove one of your opponent's cards. It doesn't have to be a monster to get this out. And if you have too many Winged Beast monsters in your hand, which you tend to do sometimes, you can just shuffle those away and draw 2 more cards. So really good card to have here. Just 1 copy I think is solid enough. 2 Book of Moon. I decided to include this in here because people are going to be running Imperm, and yeah, this is just a great way to go past Imperm if they try to do so, since this deck is kind of weak to that. And yeah, 2 Called by the Graves because this card is this deck is also weak to Ash Blossom, so you want to be able to target that. Having Called by the Grave just gives you so much protection. And yeah, and just to add on to the Book of Moon too, Book of Moon is a flexible card just because you are able to use it during your opponent's on your opponent's cards, and this is a great way to. I used this in order to deal with one of their Draco monsters that tried to search out either their spell, their continuous spell, or their trap. So flexible card that I think is worth running 2 copies of. Here we have 3 copies of Harpy's Featherstorm. So I think Harpy's Featherstorm is really good for this deck because if you control Winged Beast monster, your monster cannot. It negates all of your opponent's monster effects. So you can see this card is overpowered. Super easy to if you draw into it, you don't really need to search it out. This deck is really strong on its own, but just drawing it is great, and it's just a lot of opponents have been frustrated just seeing this card. So yeah, it's a really strong card, and I think having 3 copies of it just kind of guarantees you a victory here. And then Imperm, because you are going to be playing against Flunder, and Yeah, it's just a really strong card to have. It is another way to deal with spell trap destruction as well, or spell traps if you place them, they're placed in the same column. And yeah, just a really great flexible card to have here. 1 FLOOWANDEREEZE and the Dreaming Town, because this card lets you normal summon during your opponent's turn, and it's also a way to just flip your opponent's monsters down when this card is in the grave. So this card is just great, and it's a way to remove itself as well, since that'll give you more options if you want to get Dimension Shifter alive again. And here we have one of the Monarchs Erupt. So one of the Monarchs Erupt is great because it's similar to the Harpy's Featherstorm, just because if you control a tribute summon monster, you have no cards in your extra deck, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field, while those monsters are face-up on the field except tribute summon monsters. So again, not exactly the same as Harpy's Featherstorm, because this card negates monster effects in the hand as well. So this card is really great. But the Monarch's Erupt is still good in this deck, and you still have a lot of targets that you're easily able to set up with this card. That makes it a powerful card that prevents your opponent from really playing. And yeah, this is my deck profile for the Extra Zero Festival event. And yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to use the link in the description down below, like, comment, subscribe, and all that. And I'll see you guys all next time. Thank you for watching.